So this is actually our second book launch, but the first public launch for our book, Scientists on Survival. At that first book launch, a very talented stand-up comedian and scientist introduced the event saying, hello, I'm Tristram and my natural habitat is Waitrose. And I think my natural habitat is anywhere but standing in front of a microphone. I'd much rather be in a lab, learning the secrets of microbial life or out for a walk, staring at all the beetles. But I'm here in front of a microphone, a bit uncomfortable, but not half as uncomfortable as it takes to get me out on the street in a protest. But we're living in a strange world. We have an existential climate and nature emergency, and that's what's pushed myself and 25 scientists who are the authors of this book out to do some things that are quite uncomfortable to us. So each of these 25 stories in this book captures a moment or aspect of a journey of us knowing about the crises that are affecting our world, from that point to then acting as urgently as we can to raise the alarm about them and respond to them. Along the way, each of those scientists in the book, some of whom are here tonight, have had a realization that may sound kind of obvious to most of you, but it was only clear to me after many years of showing a lot of people a lot of graphs. That it's not just facts and data alone that are enough to motivate action. We desperately need action to protect ourselves and the rest of life on Earth, but facts won't get us there. We don't just need the knowledge, we need to feel how important it is we act, and we need to see that when we do act, we actually do have the power to change things. So each of the authors have found ourselves trying something that doesn't come naturally to many scientists, speaking from the heart and telling our personal stories as part of this book. Our hope is that these stories, in those stories, there's something that motivates, resonates, challenges anyone who reads them. So, because public speaking kills me, I'd like to hand over to three of the authors to share a little bit about themselves and a very short excerpt from their chapter to give you a flavour of what this book's all about. So, starting off with the incredible Jen Murphy.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm Jen, and I am a science teacher. I live over in Warrington. This afternoon, I had Year 7. We were doing the components connected in series in parallel, if anyone can remember back to their days at school, if they're not currently a physicist or interested in circuits. But, you know, dashed over here, and it's really lovely to see so many people here this evening. So this is a short excerpt from my chapter. Back to the present. I stand in front of my Year 7 class. I am nervous. How was I going to deliver the bad news and stay inside the teacher's standards? How could I handle this? Thank you. Now that we know what I learned back in the 1980s might happen in the future has actually come to fruition. We're going to learn today about something very important. It's about how our use of energy resources is causing climate change. Josh puts his head on the desk. Head up, Josh, I say, we're going to listen and then do some activities. But I can't, he says. I leave him resting while I get on with a starter to find out what the students already know and think. In a quiet moment, I whisper to him, are you okay? Do you think you can lift your head up and get started? He is clearly distressed. His neurotype means that sometimes school is difficult, and I don't know what might have happened in the hours before this lesson. He lets out a wail. I hate it, and hate it, and hate it, he shouts louder now. His benchmates are looking over. I thought it was supposed to be getting better, and it's not. We are always learning about climate change. Nothing ever changes. Nothing gets better. What are we going to do? I have nothing for him. I know that feeling, the anguish, the grief, the helplessness. Josh feels the climate crisis, like we should all feel the climate crisis. Raw, honest, terrifying. I'm sorry, I say, you're right, and I'm worried too. But nothing I can say can ever be enough.
Up next is Sophie.
Yeah, more importantly, Jasper's here. So, yeah, don't listen to me, just watch him. So, I'm new to Yorkshire. I've recently moved up here, and you'll tell from the story where I used to live. So this is an excerpt from my chapter. I'm walking over Caversham Weir. The River Thames in spate is thundering below, flowing on to London and the North Sea. I feel and smell the power. I want to capture that natural energy. Surely someone else wants to too. And they do. A friend of mine directs me to Tony, an energetic mind, voracious in creating sustainability projects across the town of Reading. It turns out that an application for permission for a hydropower plant has already been submitted to the council through the hard work of local sustainability groups. Together we set up Reading Hydro formally as a community benefit society, a kind of co-op. We are a diverse collective of warm and tenacious characters. Those are really important characteristics if you ever have a community group, and anybody who has one will know. People have got to be warm and kind to each other and also really tenacious, otherwise things don't happen. And we're scaling the amount of expertise and bureaucracy and administration that's needed for a hydropower project. Many individuals at some point made a crucial difference to the project, meant that it could go ahead. There were so many points at which we could have failed, and we didn't, because there was one key person among the many of us who made that difference. It was amazing. And then there was constant planning, networking and vigilance going into attracting the skills we needed. We need so many different skills. And the characteristics necessary to make an effective and very responsible organisation it needs to be if you're doing something that potentially dangerous. And above all, it was a rewarding organisation to be part of. No community organisation can survive without this. When we are finally ready to build, the pandemic hits. Da-na-na-na. Read for the rest.
So, my story follows the immediate aftermath of my arrest for a climate protest. And possibly the funniest part of the protest is not part of the story, but was an article in the York Mix where they'd photoshopped me to be the size of Marble Arch. Yeah, you can look up the article if you're interested. But it was like, Godzilla scientists take over London. But this story, this is about another slightly surreal moment of that protest action. But my arrival at Charing Cross Police Station is complicated by the presence of a sandwich in the pocket of the lab coat I'm wearing. The 4 police officers involved in the booking-in process cannot agree about the correct fate of the sandwich. I'm told that the sandwich policies are not consistent between London police stations. The 4 officers discuss the relative merits of the approaches that would be taken at each of their respective stations, past and present, in these circumstances. The custody sergeant interjects to inform them that due to the detainment of more environmental activists than anticipated that day, the station currently has no vegan or vegetarian food, which might be a reason in favour of sparing the sandwich in question from destruction. I'm asked to provide assurances that the sandwich derives from a reputable retailer and that I have not tampered with the sandwich. This issue is not resolved before I'm taken to the cell where I'll spend the next 24 hours. And finally, Emma Smart.
Just in case you're wondering, always stick the super glue to your hand so that you can see quite clearly what you've done there. I'm Emma. I was a fish biologist, and I was very happy as a fish biologist actually. I would spend days, weeks, months out in the field collecting species, measuring them. We love our little gadgets and writing reports and papers and assuming that the science the information and the data I was gathering would be acted upon by decision makers and politicians and the people that we vote in power and elect and trust, that they will take that science and use it for greater good, I guess. I was wrong. So very disillusioned with academia and science, with an increasing climate crisis, nature crisis, I made the shift from scientist to activism, and something I don't regret actually, because the people I've met along that journey have both been incredibly comforting and inspiring and motivating, and I'm really pleased that you've heard from some of them tonight and that hopefully you'll read this book, because without them I don't know how I'd get through every day. And anyway, this is a short excerpt from my chapter. I find myself in the back of a prison van, a cramped white plastic cubicle with a small square window to the outside world that is scrolling past. The crowded streets of shoppers, a drive-by of consumerism and greed, designer shops, a tiny window view of a huge systemic problem. A long queue of people waiting to buy fast food from a burger chain. My heart is heavy, but my mind is clear. I made an enraged, yet composed decision to stop eating. They could take my freedom, but they couldn't take my commitment to the cause. A hunger strike would be a continuation of my protest demanding action on climate breakdown, a non-violent escalation to demonstrate how serious I am, the sacrifices I am prepared to make. After 2.5 years of non-violent direct action, I am standing in a prison cell. Bright white courtyard lights burn through the cell window, creating sharp shadows of bars on the wall next to my bed. It is 2 a.m. and completely silent. I wake several times during that first night, each time a stark reminder of where I am, like a nightmare you don't leave on waking. I peer through the window, hoping I'd be able to see the sunrise. There are 5 narrow sections of scratched glass between 4 thickly painted blue metal bars. As it gets light, I become desperate to hear or see birds. A buzzard calls. I can't see it, but I cry for the first time. So thank you very much.
Sorry. I never saw myself becoming an activist of any kind, but yeah, the people who I've met from doing this work, I guess, over the last few years have absolutely changed my life and inspire me every single day. So I'm so grateful to these incredible scientists, women, humans, activists, and dogs for making the journey and being with us tonight. So thank you so much. Can I request a round of applause for them again?